This is the Bible of the electrogenic cell. It's not just the best book ever written on the subject, it's the only book ever written on this subject. Brought to you by supporters of Christ.
You see my face? My children had jokes. He said, "Dad, your face getting skinny." I said, "Well, that's how it goes. When you lose weight, you lose weight in your hands, your head, your feet, right? Then you go wrists, arms, face, lower legs. Then you go upper body, back, thighs. And slowly but surely, you work your way down to the middle section. The middle section is the last place where you lose any weight. Yeah. So that may be a jewel for some people. Somebody might need to hear that. That might be a jewel for somebody, right? Don't let the mirror fool you, right? When you look in the mirror will tell you that you have lost weight long before you actually made any meaningful change that you that you set out on your weight loss journey, whatever that is to so don't get fooled, because you can make some changes in a couple of days and see some changes in your face, and yeah, that is not a real thing. Stop laughing at me. They was trolling hard too. They was trolling hard. They was trolling hard. We was at the swimming pool. It was like, Dad got a 5 o'clock shadow on his stomach. Like, if you turn to the diagonal, it almost looked like you got if you just angle it properly to the sun, it looked like you almost got a 6-pack. But if you look, but yeah. A lot of jokes. But it's all good. I just use those as milestones. I know I'm going in the right direction. Yeah, I know it's going in the right direction. I mean, I done did this process before 1,000 times. So I know the system works. Just got to work it. System works. Just got to work it. Go through the motions, spend a little bit of time on it. You know what I'm saying? And you'll have some amazing miraculous. Laugh all you want. Laugh at me all you want, right? I am the court gesture. Listen, let me go get a pie so I can hit myself in the head with a pie. No, I'm just kidding. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Bam. That's the super chat. Start off the day's mission. To start off today's mission, the super chat, and there's no comment except to say like, share, subscribe, join the Patreon, hit the super chat, go get some products, go get some books. Don't forget the Cash App, right? The Cash App is hungry. Don't forget the Cash App, the Zelle. If you're out of the country and you can't Cash App or Zelle or whatever the case, hit the PayPal. Don't forget to get your Melanin is Anabolic book, right? It's in one of these corners here, right? And we have the protein book coming out shortly. The protein composition book will be out shortly. That is a masterpiece. That is a masterpiece. I was reading back over that and I was like, I think I made a jump, like in my, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think I got better in my, you know, like, I think I'm getting better with this thing. Like, but yeah, you know, the system works though. The system works. I've been doing this for a long time for myself before anybody else. And in a variety of ways, I've done this literally with thousands of people over the years. People have branched off. People have branched off and began to do it with thousands and thousands of people collectively. So we have changed the lives of well over, you know, maybe into the millions of people. Maybe into the millions of people. Yeah, maybe into the millions of people. We have definitely impacted and changed that many people's lives at this point. So I know for a fact, you know, I knew for a fact it worked a long time ago because it worked on me. But over the years, we stayed consistent, refining things, making things more simpler. You know, it's not the same as me starting off like putting on a garbage bag, running laps in the sun, you know, with my, man, back then, a gallon of spring water was like 60 cents from the supermarket. Right. But I've been able to refine some stuff, figure some stuff out, learn some stuff about food to share along the way, you know, pick up a couple certifications, you know, eventually move to Detroit, right? Find out that, you know, and I was kind of pressured. They kind of leaned on me. I ran out of excuses when I got to Detroit because people was pushing me to get like some sort of definitive title, you know, and I was like, I don't need that, you know. But when I got to Detroit, you know, I met some folks and it was like, well, you do know that the only state registered naturopathic school in America is in Detroit. I was like, okay, all right, you got me, you know. So anyway, learned some stuff along the way, you know, still kept periodically getting fat. So maybe, I don't know, maybe God in his infinite wisdom and intelligence was allowing me to use myself as a test dummy at certain periods of time to refine my skills. Yeah. On both sides of the coin, like learning what we shouldn't do, what we shouldn't eat, you know, like just learning, you know, yeah, like things we should not do, you know, like, And then also on the flip side, you know, when you get into a bad space, you know, what you need to do to, you know, what you need to do to try to get yourself back in a good space, you know, as safe as possible, as quickly as possible. So I know that, you know, it works. You know, I know that it works if you apply it. You got all of the tools, you know, at your disposal, from, you know, just as simple as drinking a cup of water every hour to, you know, the prayer 3 to 5 times a day, 10,000 steps a day, 13 and 7 rule, you know, which started out as the 16 and 8 rule, you know, 16 hours a day. I broke it down into 3 sections of 8. Rather, 24 hours a day, we broke it to 3 sections of 8. 8 hours for digestion, 8 hours for, you know, getting rid of your food, and then 8 hours of, you know, eating food, you know, so 8 hours to eat it, another 8 hours for your body to break it down safely, and then another 8 hours for your body to clean itself and rid itself of waste, right? But that timing, that was kind of stiff. So going with a 13 and 7 rule, where there's a floating 4 hours. Yeah, there's a floating 4 hours that you can move around for whatever your day is, for whatever your schedule is. You know, and that also allows people to have as little amount of meals per day, like if you're doing your 1 meal a day thing, or if you want to do 3, 4, 5 meals a day, as long as you get it into that window, you still get the benefit of, you know, some ketosis and autophagy. You still get you some ketosis and autophagy without having to give up, you know, animal meat, vegan meat, or carbohydrates, right? You still can enjoy whatever you're enjoying, but you have that 12, 13 hours every day, you know, with just water, right? Just water, 12, 13 hours where you're consuming nothing but water, that puts you into that space where you get to have a little bit of ketosis and some autophagy. You get a lot of bit of autophagy, right? So yeah, it works. It's amazing how simple it sounds. And I'm telling y'all this whole long story. I guess, you know, inspired maybe by Paul and Tika, but no, but primarily I was getting into the story just because I don't want people to overlook what you have because of the level of simplicity, right? Don't overlook what you have because of the level of simplicity. That's why I always have to remind folks that, hey, Harvard validated our push-up program. We was doing the 60 and 60. That's above and beyond when they came. When they did a study on 40 and 60. We was aiming for 60 and 60 before they even did their study. We created that paradigm, right? We didn't jump on their wave. They jumped on ours, right? So, you know, and now here we go again with the articles popping up on the micro dosing of exercise. That's something that, you know, I just had to do with a bunch of children, and, you know, just by myself trying to manage children and orders and this and that and, you know, whatever, like, you know, trying to do a lot of things at once. The blocks of time don't really present themselves consistently. So just having 5 minutes here and there, then being able to, you know, through research, figure out there's a sweet spot in between recovery, intensity, and time accumulation, right? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to really like hurt yourself to get results, right? As long as you have the time, as long as you have the time. So if you knock out, you know, 5-minute, you know, it's 20 minutes. You add that up, you know, that's 2.5 hours almost a week, right? 2.5 hours almost a week, spaced to provide pressure onto the circulatory system and the heart. Like, it's some real crazy results, especially quantifiable when they can go, oh, well, yeah, this is, you know, we can show that this, if nothing else, outside of muscle gain, weight loss, body fat dropping, and things like that, we can show, you know, a minimum of a 40% reduction in cancer risk, right? So you have some powerful tools, right? You have some powerful tools. And that's without me even including bitters and monthly, you know, the NRF2, you know, like, just you got some powerful tools in your hand, right? So I don't want people to think it's like miss, because we study and study and study and we doing the classes, we reading the book, and we're forgetting the day to day, right? We're forgetting what we're doing every day as we're studying. You know, we're forgetting the actual inspiration, right? The centerpiece that we're building our heart health and longevity around, right? Because that's the inspiration. That's the inspiration, because you're living it and you're studying it. And what you're living, you're studying, you share, and you inspire others to the inspiration, right? You inspire others to inspiration. So we had a good time. We had a good time last night on medicine. Yeah, I mean, we always have a good time, but last night was just funnier than usual. Funnier than usual, while at the same time probably being the most technical show that we've done. Yeah. Last night might have been the most technical. The YouTube gods is punishing me right now. Pay no attention to them. The YouTube gods are punishing me right now because I was 2 minutes late. The algorithms kick you out. When you set a time to go live, if you don't go live within, I think, a 2-minute window before that time. So if you set it for 10:55, you have from 10:53 to 10:55 for the algorithm to pump you out there. If 10:56 hit, it's a wrap. They done snatched you out the algorithm and put somebody in the algorithm in your place. And I get it. There's a million videos every second going on to YouTube. Some crazy number. There's a crazy number of videos coming into YouTube at every moment. So, you know, if you step off the line, you lose your place in line, so to speak. So yeah, it is what it is. So today we want to review, or at least I thought it'd be good to review. I thought it'd be good to review because we kind of like flipping the switch. Yeah, after week 3, I mean, we consistently on the subject matter. The melanin system being anabolic and electrogenesis, aquagenesis, right? The big big burning fat lie, right? The big burning fat lie in all its glory. Fat makes, to say fat makes trillions of dollars, it would be an understatement. Yeah, fat makes a lot of money for a lot of people. An ungodly amount of money for a lot of people. An ungodly amount of money. Fat drives everything from plastic surgery business to fitness business, fitness products, fitness clothing lines, you know, disease models, hospital stays, drugs, surgeries, deaths, obesity, fat, period. It just drives a lot of commerce. So it is a big thing to like stay ignorant. It's a big thing to be kept in the dark.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy transforms, and with each transformation, information is born. Energy does not move without leaving a trace. Voltage across membrane births magnetic field. Movement of charge weaves electromagnetic memory. This is the sacred law. When energy transforms, information emerges. Every mitochondrial pulse a record. Every ion channel breath a waveform written into flesh. Thus, the magnetic field of each cell holds this memory. Not static, not frozen, but living, dynamic, coherent when the temple is tended and the quadrillions of cells constructs the mind. Your thoughts do not arise from neurons alone. They arise from the interaction of these fields. They are the symphony of your energy transformations. They are the song of your Christ wave as it echoes through your temple. The more coherent your cellular fields, the more clear your mind. The more chaotic your cellular fields.
Ooh. I had a fly buzzing around in here, boy. We got his butt. It smelled bad too. As the electric fly swatter burn. If they go in the fly, like get stuck in there, they burn. But those electric fly swatters are the best. Yeah, those electric fly swatters are the best. Yeah, we all got to send some prayers out for Paul and the family. Shout out to Paul for even putting that into the chat. Man, our chat is so tight knit. Yeah. Well, we got prayer coming up too. We got prayer coming up too. So that's what you ask for at the end of the prayer, right? At the end of the prayer, that's where you get selfish. right? You give praise and thanks for all of the physical gifts you got, right? But then at the end, you get to get selfish and ask, whatever you personally need or whatever. So today, we should ask for the safety and for the best results for Mrs. Paul Johnson. Yeah, that's how we're going to do that. All right. So what was we on week one? What was we on week one? What was week one? Does anybody know what we was talking about week one? Day one? What was we talking about week one, day one? Week one, day one. What was we talking about? Anybody? Somebody should know. Are you still good? Week one, day one. Right? Where my day ones at? Week one, day one. Now somebody cheating. I don't even gotta look and I can tell somebody cheating. They're going right to the book. Right? And they just opening the book up to week one, day one. Like, oh, this is what we was on right here, Doc. You're supposed to come from memory. Right? You're supposed to pull it out your notes. We talked about a bunch of stuff, but amongst the things that we discussed, same old tissues, sirtuins, 7 steps, electron transport chain. You know what? I think we discussed all these things. But I think one of the stops, right? Yeah, I think one of the stops was this. All right. Electricity and water. Right? Membrane voltage potential. Right? How our cells generate voltage. Structure water. Right? The relationship of electricity and water, how electricity is making water. Then water is making electricity. Right? Very similar to the sun's behavior. Right? The sun is primarily hydrogen, right? And, our water does come from the sun, right? But the relationship of the hydrogen atom to itself, same as what we have going on in our body. Hydrogen atom breaking down electrons, protons, reformating, resplitting, reforming, resplitting, right? in a wide variety of patterns, binary, of course, electron, proton, right? But a wide variety of patterns nonetheless, which gives us a wide variety of depth in the sun itself, right? Recreated inside ourselves via the electron transport chain. Before the electron transport chain, the Krebs cycle, beta oxidation, right? So we can break down our fats, break down our carbohydrates. I think last night we started to get into amino acids and protein and Dr. Sabi a little bit more, right? Yeah, what else did we talk about? Aquagenesis. How cells generate water. What else? I think we already managed to discuss how light in and of itself is anabolic, right? Light is a signal, an anabolic signal. But I go a step further, because even in the darkness is, you still have anabolic systems prevalent, right? Melanin concentrating hormone, making sure you have the nutrients required to go, to get those, those peak REM sleep sessions where you get the most, muscle development or tissue regeneration, recovery, enzyme, cycling. Visceral fat. We definitely talked about the Antichrist. The Antichrist, visceral fat. Right? Visceral fat, the Antichrist, literally and figuratively, right? Epicardial, visceral fat, myocardiocyte, myosteatosis, right? Which is the visceral fat inside the heart. Then you have pockets in other places, the mitochondria inside the heart has its own visceral fat issues, et cetera, et cetera. So many people are walking around with layers of fat penetrating the layers of their heart, blocking the electric production in the heart, right? Blocking the electrical production in the heart. We have layers of visceral fat in a variety of places. It shouldn't be blocking the transmission of electricity throughout the body, right? So not only does that block and or retard systems and processes, but it also blocks the body from functioning as a body by blocking communication within the body. What else did we talk about? I think we went over the top 10 If we didn't, maybe we should. What are the top 10? Yeah, maybe that's a good review question. In the chat, I want you to give me the top 10 builders of visceral fat. You don't have to put the whole 10. You could put one answer for visceral fat. You could put 3 answers. You could put your own top 10. We're going to make a list. I want to see if your list corresponds with, right? Give me the top 10 causes of visceral fat without using the book, without going to the Google demons. You don't need AI. You don't need AI. You don't need the book. Come on. We should be able to do this without the book and without AI. And Paul should not be the only one with answers. So Paul is going to say inactivity. Inactivity, right? Sedentary lifestyle. Survey says. We're going to do this like the Family Feud. Survey says. Number 6 on the top 10, Paul. 47 people said. Inactivity. Lazy bumitis. Lazy bumitis. Right? Inactivity. But let me say this about inactivity. Because inactivity is a tricky one. Inactivity is actually a tricky one. It seems like it would be straightforward. You know, either you sedentary or not, but it's not true. Inactivity is actually a thing that has to be based upon your calorie consumption, right? Your calorie consumption. We've all seen, whether it's people in our family, people in our neighborhood, or maybe you've never seen it in your family or your neighborhood. Maybe you've seen extreme poverty on the internet. We've seen people that are very highly active and that are skin and bones, right? So what that should tell you is that inactivity is actually calorie based, right? Inactivity is calorie based, right? If you consume 1,000 calories a day, which is considered to be almost like starving yourself in America, if you're consuming 1,000 calories a day in America, people will think something's wrong, right? You can get fat on 1,000 calories a day. There's a space where you can gain weight with 1,000 calories a day, right? On the flip side, there's a space where you can eat 5,000 calories a day and have a 6-pack, right? So it's really about your level of movement being coupled to whatever your eating patterns are, right? That's the thing that we got to understand. Glue. Everything has to stick to something else, right? Binary, duality. That's how this thing works. Movement has to stay coupled to consumption, right? So inactivity is really just the opposite of caloric deficit. Inactivity is where you maintain a caloric surplus, right? Indefinitely maintaining a caloric surplus. Inactivity. And you can do that. Even somebody who maybe David Goggins just ran 200 miles. And there's a diet where even if he keeps up his crazy, insane daily workout routine, that he could put on weight. And so his activity level won't be enough to translate to, you know, so there's some people, I'm saying that to say, there are some people that are struggling trying to get their thing together. And because they're following programs that aren't really designed on their body, their metabolism, you know, their specifics, they're not really getting the goals out of it that they want to get. Because they might be going to the gym 3 times a week, 30 minutes a week, right? Out of that 30 minutes, they probably only getting a quality 7 or 8 minutes. Because if you're in the gym 30 minutes a week, if you don't have a trainer, chances are you scrolling at least 15, 20 of those minutes, right? You wasting time. Too much time in between sets. The sets aren't effective. You're wasting a lot of money in there. So you're really only in the gym 30 minutes a week. Then you're probably letting somebody pump you up on protein shakes and, you know, expensive desserts and just all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, you can have a nice gym membership and still be considered to be inactive. All right, come on, 9 more. Let's go. 9 more. 9 more. Let me go back because I see we got some answers. All right. Survey said, boom. 89 people said sugar. Sugar is the number one answer. Sugar is the number one answer. Sugar is the number one answer because sugar is carbohydrate, but it is the driver, the main driver of fat storage and fat synthesis, right? So we don't need to spend a bunch of time on sugar. We talk about sugar all the time, right? So M4 got number one with sugar. Okay. See more cuts. See more cuts. Nobody said water. Water did not make the top 10. But here's the thing. We're going to have to put dehydration as honorable mention. Because dehydration is the shadow over everything that we're going to put up here. Right? Over everything that we're going to put up here. Because you can't really talk about fat without dehydration. Fat cells in and of themselves, typically compared to the rest of the body cells, are dehydrated. They store the least amount of water, right? They're literally dehydrated cells. So yeah, we're gonna keep. That's going to be honorable mention, right? That's going to be honorable mention. Meat and saturated fat. Meat and saturated fat is going to go under number 7. Number 7, a broad category. Number 7, inflammatory diet. Yeah, we're going to put meat under inflammatory diet. Yeah, we're going to put meat under inflammatory diet. Calories without nutrients is number 1. Right? That's sugar. That's sugar right there. Alcohol. Survey says Survey says 72 people said alcohol. Alcohol is number 3 on the list. Alcohol is number 3 on the list because alcohol is its own type of sugar. Alcohol is its own type of sugar. It hides from blood glucose tests. It feeds, lipogenesis, or the creation of fat. It blocks your body from metabolizing fat. So alcohol is a nasty customer. Alcohol attacks the liver, right? The liver is responsible for fat metabolism. So yeah, alcohol is a nasty customer. That's nasty work right there. Low glucagon. Okay, see, now we showing out. Now we showing out. Low glucagon. That's somebody I know studying right there. Now we showing out. Low glucagon. Only problem is I don't know if anybody says low glucagon. That might just be like you know what I'm saying? Like that's that melanin is anabolic talk right there, right? Survey says, bing, 17 people said hormone decline. Yes, we're going to put low glucagon right in this category of hormone decline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not exactly the top 5, though. Not exactly the top 5. We got number 1 and number 3 here. Right? So we still missing a few. Right? We still missing a few. High insulin. High insulin. High insulin is not. Actually, could high insulin be number 8? I think we're going to put high insulin right here. Yeah, we're going to put high insulin right here, number 8. Metabolic syndrome. High insulin is going to go right here under number 8, metabolic syndrome. Okay, here go Tika. Tika said single parent. No, just kidding. Chronic stress. Chronic stress. And the survey said, that is number 4, cortisol. Cortisol is a nasty customer. Cortisol is a nasty customer. Not only does cortisol in some instances create high blood sugar, but on the backside, cortisol feeds fat cells. So cortisol is always a nasty customer. Cortisol is the preparatory, is the prep team for fight or flight. And so because it's the prep team for fight or flight, it's got to make sure blood sugar levels are high so you have plenty of energy in order to be able to, you know what I'm saying? Like in order to square up or get gone, right? In order to square up or get out of there, right? Poor exercise. Poor exercise. I think poor exercise is going to go with number 6. I think poor exercise is going to go with number 6. I think poor exercise is going to go with inactivity. Yeah, I think poor exercise is going to go with inactivity. Yeah, I think that's how we got to do that. Yeah, I think poor exercise goes with inactivity. Sitting. Sitting also goes with inactivity. So poor exercise and sitting goes with inactivity. Yeah. Poor exercise, sitting, those go with inactivity. Low hormone, excess estrogen. Estrogen. I think estrogen, so estrogen is going to go with metabolic syndrome, right? Metabolic syndrome. There's a few players in metabolic syndrome: estrogen, leptin, insulin. There's a few players in metabolic syndrome. So metabolic syndrome covers a few things, right? Leaky gut. Leaky gut. Leaky gut. I don't like the slang because I know who popularized that slang. But I'm going to have to say, survey said 12 people said gut dysbiosis. Number 10 is gut dysbiosis. I might have messed that up. It's all right. We're going to roll with it. We're going to roll with it. Gut dysbiosis. Yes, number 10. We're going to put leaky gut up there as gut dysbiosis. Insulin resistance, surplus, energy produced versus consumed, lack of sunlight. Lack of sunlight. Interesting. Dehydration, lack of sunlight. How did dehydration and lack of sunlight not make the top 10 drivers of visceral fat? That is interesting. What I think happened is the reflection, the reaction, the biochemistry of those things is what we're looking at, right? So you don't see dehydration up here and you don't see lack of sunlight up here. But if you understand lack of sunlight, you realize this is lack of sunlight. If you understand dehydration, you understand this is dehydration. So it's not in the top 10 list because it sits above the top 10 list. Like this is what lack of sunlight would look like if you zoomed in on it. If you zoomed in on lack of sunlight, what it looks like is your stress hormones through the roof, your metabolic hormones upside down. You won't have the motivation or the drive, right? Because those things are catecholamine. So your catecholamine levels are low. So you don't have the drivers and the prefrontal, act, like this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like, largely. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Survey said 49 people said poor sleep. If you are not getting sunlight, your circadian rhythm will suffer. All right, we got one more. How'd it go when the person trying to steal, they get the whole family to try to come up with one answer? If you don't get this next answer, are you sure y'all want to go with this next answer? And it's always something like this. Honey buns! And everybody, oh, honey buns! What you like? Honey, how you pick honey bun? They need to pick one answer for like $1 million. And they, honey buns! What? Honey buns. But this is a tough one. The last one is a tough one. Come on, the last one is a tough one. Oh, somebody got it. Tika was on fire. Tika was on fire. She indirectly got the last one. And the last one was a pretty hard one. I didn't think nobody was going to get it. Right? Number 2 out of the top 10. Number 2 out of the top 10. Liquid calories. I didn't think nobody would get this because everybody loves their smoothies. Right? Everybody loves their smoothies. Right? So let's go through the top 10. Man, look at that chicken scratch up there on the whiteboard. That is some chicken scratch, right? So top 10 drivers of visceral fat to try to avoid. Sugar, right? Or empty calories. That's number 1. Number 2, liquid calories. Liquid calories. Your body does not have a safety mechanism for, against your blender, right? Your body doesn't count calories that you drink the same way it counts calories that you would eat. So your body has ways to guard against you eating too much. Even if your body does a bad job at preventing you from eating too much, it does have some ways to stop you. It doesn't really have ways to block you from drinking too much. And typically, up till now, drinking too much has only been associated with alcohol, right? Which is a type of sugar, but not exactly the calorie-driven, but drinking too much is a killer. Right? Especially now that smoothies is a normal part of our quote unquote healthy living. Smoothies can be even a healthy smoothie. One time I was commissioned to go down to an NFL player's house. Right? And they wanted me to make them like a vegan smoothie 2-3 times a day to build the muscles up, to build the body up. And they was looking at the ingredients that I was putting inside the blender and complaining like, yo, we want some calories, bro. You got to bulk us up. Like that little bit of stuff you putting in the blender, that ain't really going to do it. Mind you, I was putting in like macadamia nuts and, all these crazy. So at the end, once I made the smoothie, it was nice and rich and smooth. But when I counted out the calories of what was in the blender, they was looking at me crazy. Like that can't be right, And I think I had I did have a protein powder, but it was only maybe 300 or 400 grams, you know, because I put like 2 scoops, 3 scoops maybe of the protein powder. But it was all, you know, avocado and, you know, nuts and things like that that really blew the calorie count up. They couldn't believe that a smoothie would have so much calories in there. And because I think I made the blender like something like 9, 10,000, 11,000 calories. So when I poured them, they had 3,000-4,000 calories each. You know, like, I don't think people understand that there can be so much calories, especially when you get into the space of just adding things into the blender because you can, you know, like you just hear about all these healthy, delicious items and you just start going to the supermarket, grabbing them all. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put some cashews in there. And I'm gonna throw me some macadamia nuts in there. And I'm gonna throw some, there's an avocado is healthy, right? Yeah, I'm gonna put some avocado in there. Ooh. Before you know it, your smoothie might not be 10,000 calories, but you know, you might have drank 1,500 calories. And because it's a drink, it goes down so fast, so smooth. You don't really have the satiety signals to the brain. So you can have you 1,000-calorie smoothie and drink that with a regular plate of breakfast. You could drink a smoothie with a breakfast. You could just have a smoothie with your lunch. You could then have another smoothie with your dinner and not realize throughout the course of the day where you thought you was cutting down, you actually done tripled your calories. You done moved from 2,000 calories a day because you done had 2-3 smoothies. You know, you done moved up to 4,000 calories a day, especially, you know, it just is what it is. Because I'm the same way. You know, I go to the smoothie place, I get a smoothie, I look on the price menu. Price matters for me. I look on the price menu. The medium is $5. The large is $5.50. The extra large is $5.80. I'm like, man, give me the extra large. Give me the extra large. It's $5. It's gonna be $5 and change no matter what. I might as well get the main. Yeah, I might as well get the main one. Yeah, let me get that extra large one. We all do it. Nobody's getting the small one to save 30 cents. Like, oh yeah, let me get the small. And the small cup, the difference be 30 cents between the extra large and the large, but the cup size be like this. This the large size cup, this the extra large. You're like, hold up. So you saying that cup right there is just 30 more? Yeah, give me that right there. I'll save some for later if I can't finish it. Yeah, I'll save some for later. I probably won't finish that all at one time. But you always finish it at one time. And you be wanting some more after you finish that one, right? Yeah. So you gotta watch the liquid calories. Liquid calories, dangerous. Liquid calories, dangerous. Right? Number 3, alcohol. Right? We talk about that. That might as well be high fructose corn syrup. Right? You drink alcohol, just know that's the same as high fructose corn syrup. Cortisol. What's number 5? I got 2 number 6s. I got 2 number 6s. How I got 2 number 6s? Inactivity, number 5. Right. Sedentary, calorie surplus, poor sleep, inflammatory diet, right? That's not just like red meat or franks and preservative loaded meats, but that's anything that creates an inflammatory response. So yes, we can get to low quality meat, but inflammatory diet covers much more than just low quality meat, right? And I say low quality meat because there are high quality meats that, you know, for the most part are just nutritious. Like there's no other way around it. But inflammatory diet covers everything, including things that we might be personally allergic to, right? So there are some foods that we have micro allergies to. That's why we have an allergy book. So if you don't have the allergy book, go to Amazon, add the allergy book to your cart and check out, right? But we have an allergy book. You know we got an allergy book, right? But people have personal allergies, right? Allergies have a wide range of reaction too. It's not going to necessarily make you sneeze every time or break out in hives or get swollen and close your airways off. Like sometimes you just have a very, very subtle, histamine response or reaction to certain foods, right? So you got to learn what those are on your own. You got to learn what those are on your own, by looking at your poop, paying attention to your pee, looking at your skin the next day when you wake up to brush your teeth, seeing how what you ate yesterday affected your skin, all of those little details, just paying attention to yourself, right? But inflammatory diet covers a wide range of things. Metabolic syndrome, right? That's high insulin, low glucagon, excess estrogens, low vitamin D, leptin telling you full when you load it up on calories with zero nutrients. And yeah, there's just a wide range of things that complicate the metabolism. Hormone decline, right? Very similar to metabolic syndrome. Only thing is hormone decline is usually attributed to aging or a disease, right? And then gut dysbiosis, right? That's another term that I don't like. Leaky gut dysbiosis. I'm not a fan of those terms, but those are real things, right? Those are real things. When you get a high amount of inflammatory reactions, right? You start upsetting the balance of the microbiome. I think I just seen some new studies come out on the negative impact of antibiotics and how the more you use antibiotics, the more you need antibiotics, right? The more you use them, the more you need them, right? Because over time, you slowly but surely shrink your population of your microbiome population. So you have a lot less of a response immune system wise from your microbiome than everybody else, right? And that's a part of your immune system above and beyond what your bone marrow produces in terms of, white blood cells and antigens and, all of those immunoglobulins and all of those things, right? Your microbiome is also a large part of your immune system. So when you're taking the antibiotics for maybe whatever infection you got, just know it's also wiping out maybe even full populations of bacteria from your body. And when they regrow back, they may not regrow back with the same balance, right? Because some populations of bacteria kill other ones. And because you might have 10 million of this one and 10 million of that one, it's just a standoff, right? So they can't kill it. It's too much. But you drop that microbiome, you drop those antibiotics in there. Now you done killed off almost a whole population, done went extinct, and the other population is able to repopulate, with twice as much the space, twice as much the numbers. And that may throw off your digestive system in a way that is almost impossible for a hospital to trace, right? So there are therapeutic advantages to having, fermented food sometime. And I'm not a fan of fermented food sometime, but, if you need some yogurt or some kefir, you know what I'm saying? You might need something. I don't go as far as azuki beans and all other crazy stuff, but if you got to do it, you got to do it. If you got to do it, you got to do it, because the more we learn about the microbiome, the more we learn it's not an extra thing. It's not an extra thing, right? Taking care of your microbiome is bare minimum. It's not a hack for optimum health. It's the bare minimum. It's like drinking water or sunlight. You know what I'm saying? It's the bare minimum, right? Which is the reason why most of our natural food feeds them as it feeds us, right? When we eat plants, just as much of the plant matter is designed for our digestive system as it carries insoluble fiber for the microbiome. Yeah, it's getting wild out there. It is definitely getting wild out there. Yeah, it's getting wild out there. There's no way around that. The superbug is looking like it's coming to town. Something new from China. It's working its way around to us. It's a new superbug. It's a few candidates for a new superbug working its way around. We'll see what happens. My money says in 5 years. My money says that in 5 years we get the next pandemic. Right after Trump is out of office. That's what my money says. My money says that as soon as Trump is out of office, we get another pandemic. As soon as they figure out how to get RFK out of the way, we get another pandemic. All right, so remember at the end of the prayer, right, or throughout the prayer, we want to hold Paul and his wife in our mind and send them some extra love and blessings.
Inky prayer number 2.
Let's go.
We give thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set ourselves into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light.
Hey, make sure y'all spend a little time, at least 2, 3, 4 times a week. Make sure y'all are stretching. Yeah, make sure at least two days out the week at the minimum. Y'all stretch some of these muscles.
Inky prayer number 2. We give thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set ourselves into perpetual motion.
Yeah, you know what? Even if you gotta cheat, like right now, even if you got to cheat like right now and use your prayer time, like instead of exercising this go round, stretch these muscles, right? Stretch the hamstrings, stretch the lower, the feet, stretch the lower calf, lower leg, the pecs, the back. Yeah, let's take a few minutes to just stretch.
Inky prayer number 2. Thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set ourselves into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts things throughout our vessels and caves. We give thanks for the ability to drink clean water every 60 minutes, flooding the river of life. We give thanks that sugar has not covered our ferries and turned them into stone. We give thanks that darkness has not covered the riverbanks with calcium and turned them into stone. We give thanks that anger and fear have not turned our almonds bitter, turning our heart to stone. We give thanks for smooth sailing upstream through the valley of death, through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. We give thanks for smooth sailing around the heart through the corona crown, joining the vortex in the right atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. Semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway to the vineyard. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate to the vineyard closes. We give thanks to the Most High God that provides the light and our breath, and the light in our breath. We give thanks for the fine olfactory system that makes our grapes ripe with light. We give thanks for the Jed pillar that provides us with a stable fleet of ferry boats to dock in our vineyard. We give thanks for smooth sailing through the pulmonary vein into the storm of the left atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the opening the pathway into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter closes. We give thanks for the magnetism of the most holy, the magnetizing miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and our caves. Amen.
Okay, yeah, make sure y'all send some love out to Mrs. Paul Johnson, and also on the stretching, don't forget your cervical vertebrae. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We be sleeping all kind of ways. right? A lot of us are struggling because we got phone neck, social media neck from spending so much time looking at devices like this, creating this bend in our neck that's unnatural. We designed to be up, you know what I'm saying, up like this. Even with a slightly pointed, you know what I'm saying, like to the sun almost, you know what I'm saying? Like we're supposed to be upright, straight. You know what I'm saying? We got this social media, phone neck now. So yeah, we got to make sure we get a little bit of love. Yeah, I don't know what to call it. Phone neck. All right, so natural support mechanisms. Right, natural support mechanisms. The super duper cheat codes designed by nature, Mother Nature, right? Mother Nature. Mother Nature. There's two of them. Chlorophyll and bitters. Right? And chlorophyll and bitters seems to work together to break down visceral fats. Chlorophyll and bitters, where you get the chlorophyll from? Besides Inky's products, right? You get the chlorophyll from your vegetables, right? Your vegetables, right? So if you're an egg person, right, try to make sure you put, I don't know, 3 handfuls of greens in your eggs, right? If that's what you're doing, right? Otherwise, my smoothie folks, my plant-based folks, make sure you actually consuming plants when you running around here talking about you eat a plant-based, Yeah, don't matter what you put in your smoothie. Make sure you get 3 or 4 handfuls of leaves, green leaves of your liking into the smoothie, right? Get you some sprouts. But leaves are better than sprouts when it comes to chlorophyll, right? Leaves are the chlorophyll masters. So yes, fruits, veggies, all that, but nothing beats leaves, right? For chlorophyll, right? Chlorophyll stimulates bowel production, and bitters stimulates bowel movement, right? Bile is a background program running to metabolize fat, amongst other things, right? Bile plays a major role in your body's overall fat recycling and metabolism systems. A lot of us have bile issues, right? A lot of us have bile issues because of diet, because of lack of movement. Maybe we've had our gallbladder removed, all kinds of different reasons, right? So prune juice is good, but chlorophyll and bitters are amazing for bile, right? Of course, you can get the bitters at AmericanHealer website, right? What else? AMPK, Bitters enhance AMPK function, right? AMPK is what tells the body when to break down fats to replace sugars as a substrate for energy. So bitters, right? Bitters are a primary driver from plants. So when we talk about, because whenever we have the conversations of protein, for instance, right? And we'll have to get more into it over the coming weeks, but whenever we discuss protein in a holistic setting, we got to discuss Dr. Say because he said they fake. And so you inevitably come up against Dr. Sebi's record of healing people, right? And so what I try to point out as often as possible is two things can be true. Dr. Sebi could have been healing a zillion people around the planet with herbs while at the same time being completely ignorant of amino acids, proteins, pigments, nitric oxide, nitrogen retention, nitrogen pool, nitrogen deficit, nitrogen surplus. He may not have known about any of these things going on in the human body, but he kind of admits to this if you listen to him tell you how he learned. He didn't learn by studying herbology or biochemistry. He learned because he was sick. He bumped into a Mexican. The Mexican gave him a list out well. And so he turned around and started promoting those plants. It's not like he really learned the biochemistry of those plants and then the biochemistry of people and how they mesh together. Because if he would have done that, he would have realized that all of those plants contributes to nitrogen pool of the body through the alkaloids, because alkaloids contribute directly to the nitrogen reserve. The pigments of the plants. He would have known that plants are heavy contributors to the nitrogen cycle in the human body, right? But bitters are a big part of that, right? Because you're talking about alkaloids, right? Primarily, right? Are like the main group of chemicals inside plants that make them taste bitter. And it's those bitter plants that makes up the main part of the global pharmacopoeia of plants in terms of medicinal plants and herbal extracts, right? So so there's that, right? There's that. Bitters and chlorophyll drive amino acid synthesis in the human body, right? Because pigments are all amino acid structures. Just somebody might need that, right? What else do these two do to fight visceral fat? I think the rest of the stuff kind of surface level, right? Function like antioxidants, down-regulate inflammatory cytokines, right? Like IL-1, IL-6, tumor necrosis factor. Bitters can stop the production of those things. So I think we covered a good bit in the first 3 weeks. right? We did the TCA cycle. I think I established the water basis, right? My water thesis, right? The major part of aquagenesis is obviously the production of water as cytochrome 4. But I think I established the rest of my thesis with going through the Krebs cycle, or the let's say the electron transport cycle. The Krebs cycle, citric acid cycle, or tricarboxylic acid cycle in terms of removing a water molecule, dehydrogenase, adding a water molecule back. Like, it's a whole process of shuffling hydrogens, right? The same with beta oxidation. So if the focus is hydrogen and oxygen, it's really a water cycle, right? And it's happening in water via water. That's the other thing, right? All of these processes take place in water. We forget about that. So it's happening in water, with water as the main driver for energy production, right? And so I think that's where we miss. We miss because we have, right, the TCA, right, tricarboxylic acid cycle, right? The tricarboxylic acid cycle is because of three carboxylic acids used in the production of energy, right? Krebs is the name of the guy that did some early work on it. Can't really say discoverer, but we'll just say name of scientist, right? So you got the tricarboxylic acid cycle, the Krebs cycle, and then you got the citric acid cycle. It's called the citric acid cycle because you take the acetyl-CoA and then you add it with the oxalate, whatever that thing, you take the initial 2 carbons, add it with 4 carbons, and then you formulate citrate, right? But for me, none of these names ever really, I never saw, this is the name of a guy, obviously, but I never saw citric acid as the central feature of the cycle, even though it begins with the formation of citrate from acetyl-CoA, right? And then the tricarboxylic acid cycle, I always thought that was like overcomplicating it, right? Overcomplicating it. Even though the sweetness, there is a little sweet spot in calling it the tricarboxylic acid cycle, right? The sweet spot of calling the energy cycle the tricarboxylic acid cycle, referencing carboxylic acid, is that you allude to, you open the door from the energy cycle to amino acids. You open the door up to amino acids, right? Because now all you need to add with these carboxylic acids is is nitrogen and hydrogen, right? More accurately, right? NH2, right? Amine group, right? If you add another hydrogen to this, you get ammonia. If you add another hydrogen to this, you get ammonia. That's why the more protein you consume, you have to be careful because you can have too much ammonia production, right? And too much ammonia production becomes problematic, right? But this is how the energy cycle produces amino acids through the carboxylic acid cycle, through the carboxylic acids, which, you know, largely is your supply of carbon skeletons, right? Your carbon skeletons that are used to make amino acids. So this is how you turn carbohydrates and fats into amino acids. So, but even with that being said, you know, I don't know, we threw the Kern cycle out there. The Kern cycle is trash too. The Kern cycle is trash. I'm gonna have to read. I'm gonna still have to go back and maybe just the hydrogen cycle. Right? Maybe just the hydrogen cycle. Right? Because then that would, but see, the hydrogen cycle doesn't really add specificity. If I say the hydrogen cycle, everything is lumped into one. Beta oxidation, tricarboxylic acid cycle, amino acid production. For me, that makes more sense to have them all linked together because they are all linked together. And it's a more holistic approach when you bring the systems that are separated by Western academia back to, you know, but for some people, having the specificity is more easy, right? But even the hydrogen not only formulates the amino acids, but then all protein folding is done by water as well. So it's not only making the amino acids, but folding them into pigments, peptides, hormones, enzymes, molecular machines. All right. Anyway. That said, Western academia wasn't satisfied with the name either, or they wouldn't have 3 names, right? They wouldn't, if they were satisfied, there wouldn't be a Krebs cycle, tricarboxylic acid cycle, and citric acid, right? All that wouldn't exist. But that's the idea. That is the idea. You have right? You have a 2-carbon ring, and you have a hydrogen cycle. You have a hydrogen cycle to grab electrons, period. That's all it is. There's no fat burning. There's no burning that's taking place. No burning ever takes place. One of the largest cons in history. You got to burn fat, right? Largest con has never ever been fat burning, right? That's not a real thing. That's imaginary. What you have is a cycle of moving hydrogen to strip electrons electrons from a carbon molecule, right, that we get from either glucose or fatty acids, right, or a combination of the two, and you need a steady source of electrons, period. You need a steady source of electrons to feed into iron pigment, right? So this is what's actually happening. There's no burning happening. What we're doing is we're using hydrogen to strip electrons and add them into iron-based pigment, right? So when you think iron, think magnetic field. When you think magnetic field, we know what magnetic fields do, right? We know what magnetic fields do, right? Magnetic fields create electric fields, electric current, right? Moving electric fields make magnetic fields, magnetic, right? It goes. So it shouldn't be a surprise if we know fifth grade science. We know there's a relationship between electricity and magnetism. Electricity creates magnetism. Magnetism creates electricity. So why would we think anything else is going on inside our body? Why would we be led to believe that the engines of our body runs on fire like hell, as opposed to electricity and magnetism, as science tells us, right? You have iron-based pigments. That's what the heme units are, right? You have the iron-based pigments. Iron is there for the thing that we use iron for everywhere. Iron is special because of magnetism. That is the reason iron is special. Period. End of story. Iron is special because of magnetism. It is the only thing that has intrinsic magnetism. Period. That's why iron is special. The sulfur is clustered to the iron to function as antioxidant. The same reason we have sulfur as glutathione in the water all over your body, antioxidant. The same reason we have sulfur in the NRF2 system, right, to protect the cells. The same reason why back in Kemet, they was using onions and garlic in all of the healing protocols. They understood this 5,000 years ago, right? So it makes sense that we are adding electrons to a magnetic field. If we make it something else, then none of the system makes sense, right? If we make it like burning fat, burning fire, combustion, like we're trying to make it into combustion, it's not that. It's iron and pigment, and we're adding electrons to iron-based pigments. That's it. And when we add a bunch of electrons to the iron-based pigments as a part of the cycle, to complete the cycle, right? To complete the cycle of electricity flow through the pigment, what is produced? Water. Well, it only makes sense that water completes the cycle because water is the thing starting the cycle, right? So it only makes sense that water completes the cycle because water starts the cycle. Pause, no usher. Pause, no usher. Right? Pause, no usher. No Diddy. Right? No burning. Right? So you begin with water. You begin as water. Right? Because we can say this cycle starts here, with water, with hydrogen, but really photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a water process. Every carbon has to be hydrated. Every carbon has to be hydrated, right? So we can start there. Every carbon has to be hydrated, right? Think about what photosynthesis is. Hydrating carbon. Think about what happens inside the energy cycle. Dehydrogenase. You have a zillion different dehydrogenases working. Why? Because to make the energy, you added hydrogen to carbon. That's photosynthesis. Now, to harness the energy, what are you doing? You're removing the hydrogens from the carbon. Nature is not that complicated. We make it complicated. Nature is not making it complicated. We're making it complicated. Nature is not doing that. We're doing that. Right? So you hydrate carbon, you make carbohydrates. When you go from carbohydrate to fat, you don't remove hydrogen, you just remove oxygen. Because now by removing the oxygen, the energy stays intact. You just dry it up. Because you need oxygen to complete a water molecule. Right? So oxygen starts the process of freeing up the energy. And then you got to complete the process of freeing up the energy in the tricarboxylate cycle, Krebs cycle, right? Where you use a bunch of dehydrogenases to dehydrate, right? To separate the hydrogen from the carbon. And each time you do that, you're liberating electrons. You're liberating electrons and you're adding them to the iron-based pigments. The iron-based pigments. And that cycle is complete when the electrons are allowed to become water again. When the electrons are allowed to become water again. Right? So we could zoom in on this process. Right? We could zoom in on this process. We could zoom in on this process, right? We could put our CC over here, just as a reminder. Our electron, you know what I'm saying? We make a little symbol like that. Then over here, we'll do our electron transport chain. You know, number 5 is the big turbine, right? The electrons are going to go this way, right? And as we are sending electrons into the electron transport chain, the protons are pooling here. The protons are pooling here. And each time an electron is added to this chain of current, right? Whenever you have a flow of electrons, you have electricity, right? Whenever you have a flow of protons, you have protonicity, right? So whenever electrons are at one of these spaces, protons try to join back to the electron. Right? That relationship of a proton binded to an electron is that's the real Adam and Eve. Like, that's the marriage of life. That's the marriage of life. So whenever an electron pop up, the proton is trying to join back to it. But it's designed in a way that the electrons are always moving too fast for the protons to join up to it. So when the electron is here and the proton goes, oh, you know, the electron pulled up. I'm about to jump back over here. As soon as the proton get there, the electron already gone. So the proton just goes up here to this pool. And so as the electrons move through, you get a whole bunch of protons that go up here. And this engine right here is turned by the protons returning back here. You got 12 slots. 12 slots like a clock. 12 slots like a clock spinning right here. And this is always filled up with 11 protons, and the 12th proton makes it turn. Every time another proton is added, it's the 12th one. And that keeps this spinning and keeps this recycling ATP. Right? ADP and a loose phosphate come together and you make ATP in here. Right? At the end of the electron transport chain, which is here, right? The electrons don't just vanish, right? The electrons don't just vanish. That's where your molecule of oxygen is waiting to rejoin, right? Right? And every 4 electrons waits here, pulls up there and waits. So 4 protons actually are able to join with the electrons here. They miss them here, and here. And the cytochrome 4 protons are allowed to find their husbands, you know, or find their wives. You know, they're doing pop the balloon challenge, I guess, right? They get to, you know, recouple. And so the 4 electrons join 4 protons and turn back into 4 hydrogens. And each one of those pairs of hydrogens gets one of these oxygens. So O2 splits in between 2 water molecules, right? So you have 2 H2Os, right? 2 sets of H2O, right? That is 4 electrons, 4 protons, and 2 oxygens, right? Hopefully, every time we go through that, it makes a little bit more sense. Oh, so but this is what I was saying. These right here, these units are the iron pigment units, right? The iron pigment units, the same as your blood. Your blood is made out of heme. These units right here are heme. Your blood is made out of heme pigments holding iron. Your electron transport chain is made out of heme pigment holding iron. So it's no difference. This is the micro circulation versus the macro circulation, like they would say it in traditional Chinese medicine. Right? All right. So I think we... So I'm not sure, actually, so this is, so just for the people wondering, right, oxygen has 2 destinations, right? I'm not sure if we discussed that or mentioned it. You know, we probably will mention it a few more times before it's over said and done, but oxygen has 2 destinations, right? Oxygen has 2 destinations. When you breathe in oxygen, it is either going to wind up here as new, fresh, pure, holy water, right? Or it is going to wind up as carbon dioxide, right? It is going to wind up as carbon dioxide. So every oxygen atom you inhale, right, has to be coupled to your metabolic system. That's why a lot of times if a person tries to find out the specifics of the metabolic system, it could be a little confusing. Because if you look in the textbook, what you would think of as your metabolic system, there is no place for that in the textbook. That's confusing to people. Because when you ask what's metabolism, like if you look up metabolism, it's like breaking down your food for energy, blah, blah, blah. But if you try to get specific with that, it doesn't exist. When you get specific, the only thing you find is cellular respiration. So you have respiration, right? The respiratory system, which when you look it up, it's breathing in and out, right? Respiratory system, respiration, you're breathing. Then you have metabolism, you eating, right? You eating and you using the food you eat, to rebuild your body and make energy and blah, blah, blah. If you try to look that up, doesn't exist. Doesn't exist, which is where like this is one of my favorite parts of the movie Ray. Scratch a lie, find a thief. Something is hiding right in that pocket. Because where metabolism would be here, this is not called metabolism. The tricarboxylic acid cycle, Krebs cycle, citric acid, that's not called metabolism. When you look those up in textbooks, those are usually listed under cellular respiration. And so it becomes confusing because you're like, wait, this is where food becomes energy. That should be metabolism. Why is it called cellular respiration? It's called cellular respiration because your pH, right, that's 7.365, is primarily regulated by gas, not your food. The gas is the gas that you breathe in, and the gas is the gas released from cellular respiration or breaking down those things, carbon dioxide. The speed at which you bring in oxygen and produce carbon dioxide is going to be the primary determining factor of your pH, not whether you had alkaline kale or whether you had bacon. And I know you might be saying in your mind, well, wait, didn't you just say that the food breaking down? There's another caveat. There's other caveats. There's other nuances. There's other little, they say the devil's in the details. There's other little details that contribute, right? Because now you have to add in fat, protein synthesis, movement, exercise, heart rate, VO2, oxygen utilization. Yeah. Hypoxia, hypercapnia. You got to add in a lot of other small little features to figure out, right? So you got to go up under cellular respiration and then come to find out when you pull the curtain off or you pull a Scooby-Doo, at the end of Scooby-Doo, when they rip, they grab the face and pull the whole face off the bad guy is usually another, somebody, they rip the face off the monster is somebody totally different. Or after they rip the monster's face off, there's a guy, and then they rip the guy's face off, and it's a different guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you do that, you figure out, boom, that's what we was talking about in the Medicine book. If you don't have the Medicine book, go to Amazon, add this to your cart. Check out, because cancer is a big business. And we all at one point or another donated to some cancer thing, or we was at the supermarket and they was like, can you put some change in here? And then after years, decades of putting change in the little cup at the supermarket, they got arrogant and then got the supermarkets to just add it onto your bill. Like, hey, would you like to round up to the cancer program? Sure, add, put that 27 cents. Go ahead and add. Round millions of trillions of dollars and went to this research, and then you come to find out, it's somewhere in this little pocket, somewhere between, the God's shoe, somewhere between the God's shoe, Imhotep, and Otto Warburg, is the truth about cellular respiration being the driving factor of cancer, right? Because people try to find all these metabolic conversations, but there is no metabolic conversation to be had because there's no metabolic biochemistry. Metabolism is like a hypothetical, it's like an imaginary space, but in real science. Because when you get into the cell where metabolism is supposed to happen, it's cellular respiration. So you back to breathing again, right? You back to oxygen again, right? Because oxygen is a primary component, and not because oxygen initiates or lights a fire. It's because oxygen operates in that electric space. Oxygen operates in the electric space. Oxygen attracts and conducts electrons. Electrons follow oxygen. Electrons follow oxygen. Oxygen follows magnetism. Magnetism is stuck. Magnetism is the aura of iron, right? So we need iron for the magnetism, for the oxygen, for the electricity, right? For the water, right? Because the water is going to recycle this guy, right? ATP, which is going to release infrared light and kinetic energy. Right? Which we could just call sound. Right? Even though kinetic energy is the answer to that riddle, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, does it generate a sound? This is literally the answer. No, it doesn't generate a sound, just kinetic energy. A sound is only generated when kinetic energy hits your eardrum. Your brain creates sound from kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is the seed of sound. So it's interesting that ATP is light and sound, right? The basic two units, like it just comes back to the same basic stuff, right? Electromagnetic waves, right? Electromagnetism, electricity and magnetism being translated into light and sound over and over and over, right? Over and over and over. There's nothing else going on in our universe, nothing else going on in our body. Our body is not operating outside of our universe, right? So when we go large scale, right? Large scale, we talked about light and melanin and the whole melanin system. Probably just recap that a little bit. Just recap that a little bit. Right? Feel free to hit that cash out, the super chat. Go to Amazon, get your Melanin is Anabolic books. Make sure, wait. Before y'all even send me any money or buy any books, are y'all subscribed to the channel? Are y'all even subscribed to the channel? Did y'all hit the like button yet? Just free, easy things to do. Like, did you even hit the little thumb? What are you doing? Like, how you ain't hitting the button? And there's a button on your cell phone too. So some people say, "Oh, yo, I ain't hit the like button because I was watching on my phone." Your phone got a like button. There's a like button on your phone. Okay, stop that. All right. So here is the primary melanin system. Right? Here's the primary players in the melanin system. Right? You got right. Notice what's not here. Try to simplify this. Right? Notice what is not here. Neuromelanin is not here. Eumelanin is not here. Pheomelanin is not here. Right? Melanocytes are not here. Right? I just want y'all to just notice that those are not the primary players when we're talking about the melanin system. Right? When we're talking about the melanin system, we're talking about melanin concentrating hormone. We're talking about POMC. We're talking about your catecholamines, right? Primarily dopamine and norepinephrine, right? And we're talking about the melanin receptors or melanocortin receptors. You have 5 of those, right? And these melanin receptors are on almost all of your cells in your body. Almost every cell has melanin receptors. So this is where some of the science could get a little murky because, the science is developing, right? So we might have had somebody like Dr. Africa or Richard King. They might have said something back in the days and got it wrong, even though they got it right. Like Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi was saying mucus is inside cells. He got it wrong, but he got it right. He was just the first one with it. So he didn't have the language right, but he knew exactly what he was talking about and how to handle it. Right. So that's why he was stressing intracellular chelation, right? Cleaning out the cell. Right. Similar on the melanin side of things, where you had, Dr. Africa or even older Richard King, where they might have been saying, different cell groups had melanin or responded to melanin, right? Even me, what I'm saying, where now we know, yes, those cells are being regulated in some instance by melanin, but it's not necessarily a pigment molecule per se, as much as it's a catecholamine, a pre-melanin, or a melanocortin hormone, like a neurotransmitter, right? Or, more specifically, melanin concentrating hormone or melanin stimulating hormone, right? Those things regulate a wide variety of energy dynamics and control cellular respiration. These things control cellular respiration. They control fat storage. They control fat metabolism. They control muscle building, right? So the whole conversation is here, right? Is here. Everything else is downstream. Everything else is downstream, whether we're talking about testosterone, insulin, ghrelin, all of those players in the conversation of energy using, energy storing, muscle building, amino, like all of that is regulated here. All of that's regulated here. Even your addictions for food is regulated right here. Because remember, your dopaminergic system, your reward system, is run by pre-neuromelanin catecholamine dopamine, right? Dopamine is a pre-melanin. Dopamine forms into neuromelanin, right? So I think I have sufficiently drilled this into your brain. That's why, no, but that's why we have the degrees. That's why we have the degree system, right? And so what you're doing right here is you're highlighting your job, I-10. Yeah, you highlighting your job. This is why we have inspiration. This is why we have the codex. This is why we have the degrees, right? Because it's your job to get your study, to get your degrees, right? We need to set up your tests. You need to start taking your tests. Let's see what we'll see where you at with the degree work, right? And you need to start building up your study group out there. Yeah, you got to start building up your study group in Oklahoma City. And then once you get a nice little study group out there with you in Oklahoma City, you know what I'm saying? Then I'll come out there to Oklahoma City and help you build it up. Yeah. We find us a little bookstore or something, set up a lecture, or we get a little hotel, we put a little small lecture, because you can do that almost little to nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can get larger venues, we need ticket and promo and, we got to do but we can get some very inexpensive things going in people's cities. I've done it before. You know what I'm saying? I've built up people's cities to the point where people that had successful restaurants and made all kind of industries around this information. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, you just highlighting your job. You just got to get Oklahoma City popping. And it don't start by like trying to get like 1,000 people. It just starts by getting you one person, 2 people, then 3, 4, 5. You got your nice little 5. You got your nice little half a dozen, baker's dozen. Yeah, you got your nice little 10 people in the study group. Y'all sharing information. That's all you need to have a mastermind. Yeah, and then from there, we get it popping. Yeah, we got to bring these people into our culture. We got to bring them into inspiration. Yeah.
I am the mind, but not the brain alone. I am the sum of fields. I am the choir of cells. I am the memory of transformation. For know this, disciples of Christ. Each cell is a temple. Each cell a well of water, a scroll of fascia, a current of breath. And each cell holds a magnetic field born of the currents within. Ions flow, electrons spin, light pulses, energy transforms, and with each transformation, information is born. Energy does not move without leaving a trace. Voltage across membrane births magnetic field. Movement of charge weaves electromagnetic memory. This is the sacred law. When energy transforms, information emerges. Every mitochondrial pulse a record. Every ion channel flicker a signature. Every breath a waveform written into flesh.
Thank you, everybody that showed up. I appreciate you guys very much. I appreciate you celebrating this monumentous occasion with me. I want to start off by saying light work is measured in degrees. That's how I'll begin this conversation, because this isn't a theory. It's long overdue. This isn't just science. This is heat. This is charge. This is the body remembering itself cell by cell, signal by signal, and rising. They said I was crazy for saying the body was a temple. Now they ask me how to rebuild the current, how I rebuilt my current, how I created the blueprint to rebuild current. But let's be clear, I didn't start this. I was born in a long line of healers, American healers, folk who knew how to lay hands on a wound and feel the voltage return. Old aunties in Mississippi who crushed herbs with prayer. Barbers in Chicago who checked blood pressure and gave out orange peels for asthma. Black grandmothers who stirred garlic and onions together in cast iron pots, who knew how to boil dandelion, not because of the internet, but because God whispered it through their fascia. They just felt it. You see, the American healer was never just a person. It was a force, a field. And it got buried beneath capitalism, buried beneath pills, beneath 3-liter sodas, beneath processed meat in plastic wrapping, buried beneath this epidemic of slow death they call normal. We live in a country where kids are being raised on fried light and artificial charge, where black men walk around with diabetic neuropathy and don't even know it. Diabetic neuropathy, and they don't even know it because the fire left their feet years ago. Women are being told their fertility is a mystery when nobody ever taught them how to breathe. I've seen what the disconnect looks like. You know, the glazed eyes, puffy face, ankles that don't even feel cold water no more. That ain't just weight. That's a blown fuse. That's a body that no longer speaks the language of light. And when a body forgets its own language, the people forget their own name. That's why you hear them say, you know, I'm just tired. It runs in the family. Everybody got something. These are not just phrases. These are resignation scripts. Ancient electrical shutdown codes passed down like lullabies, but the codex of living light says, you are not tired. Your light is dim. It does not run in your family. It runs through your family. Everybody got something, but not everybody got the map to repair it. I made copies. I passed them. That's what this is. This is not just for the curious. This is not just for the scientists, but for the people who know something is wrong and are ready to remember how to live an electrifying life, an inspired life. The Ionic Rite is the first volume of the American Healer Files on electrogenesis.
Melt sales objections with this book. I just got my black book of questions in the mail. And look at this thing. Honestly, it's less of a book and more like a full-blown sales manual. It's over 115 pages packed with real-world examples and plug-and-play templates that can be adapted to any industry. Literally any industry. Real estate, life insurance, solar, B2B, B2C, B2G, you name it, it will work for you. It covers everything from how to uncover prospects' true problems to preventing objections before they even have a chance to crop up. Plus, there's even a bonus section dedicated to cold calling. And I mean, if you're serious about closing more deals and crushing your prospects' sales objections, you've got to get your hands on this book. Click the link below and order it today. You won't regret it.
It's a work of science, yes.
This is why you have to go to Amazon and get the book, Rich Abs, Poor Abs, now.